Hello students, welcome back. This is the video of class 9 biology, and here we are studying chapter 2, which is about tissues. So in the previous video we were talking about the connective tissue, and so this is the another part of that topic. So here we will talk about the fluid connective tissue. So today's topic is the fluid connective tissue, and we will talk about in detail about this. So first of all, we will revise that what is tissue. So tissue are the group of cells which is similar in structure and work together to perform a specific function. When the cells group together which are similar in structure and origin, and they work together to perform a particular specific function, then those group of cells are called as tissues. There are four major types of tissues. We got to know that in animals there are four major type of tissues. What are these? Epithelial, muscular, connective, nervous. Epithelial tissues are the protective and covering tissues, and most common and widely distributed tissues found in the animal body. Muscular tissues are the tissues which bring about the movement in the animal body. Connective tissues are those tissues which connect the other tissues together. So we are talking about the connective tissue. So let's see. The connective tissue is specialized to connect and anchor various body organs, and we got to know that three components are present in all the connective tissues. What are these components? Intercellular matrix, cells and fibers. The cells of connective tissue are loosely spaced and embedded in an intercellular matrix. The matrix may be jelly-like, fluid or dense or rigid. And we studied that there are 5 types of connective tissue present in the animal body. These are areolar or loose connective tissue, dense connective tissue, adipose connective tissue, skeletal tissue, and fluid connective tissue. So here we are studying about the fluid connective tissue. So let's see. As the name is fluid, you know that the fluid is called to those substance which flows. Okay, the substance which can flows that are called as fluid. So here the connective tissue is known as fluid connective tissue. That's why, because this fluid connective tissue is a mobile connective tissue, it can flow. Okay, it can flow, that's why it is the fluid connective tissue. And it consists of fiber-free fluid matrix in which living cells are suspended freely. The matrix is in the form of fluid in which the cells are found freely. It circulates in the body and transport substances, takes part in healing of wounds, and protects against pathogens. Because it is the fluid, it flows, so it flows in the body and transport the substance. It also heal the wound, and it protects us against the disease causing microorganisms. Fluid connective tissue is of two types, mainly blood and lymph. Fluid connective tissue is of two types. What are these? Blood and lymph. So one by one we will discuss about them. We will talk about the blood first of all. So blood is a connective tissue. Where is it found? In body. We will see its distribution first. So blood, it circulates in the blood vessels. So our body has tube-like structure, a network of tube-like structure that are called blood vessels, which are of three types: artery, vein and capillary. Okay, artery, vein and capillary, in which the blood flows. In our body, the blood flows in the blood vessels, that are arteries, veins and capillaries. Now we'll talk about the characteristic. So blood is an opaque, reddish and sticky connective tissue that circulates in the body inside the blood vessels. In a healthy human body, its amount is 5 to 5.5 liter. Blood consists of plasma and the blood cells or blood corpuscles. If you talk about the composition of the blood, you will see that there are two main components. First is plasma and second is blood cells. Blood cells are also called as blood corpuscles. So you can see this is the yellow color plasma present in this diagram, and these are the cells. Now we will talk about the component of the blood. First of all, we will talk about the plasma. Plasma is a pale straw colored liquid matrix that contains 85 to 90% water and 5 to 10% inorganic and organic substances. Plasma is the matrix of the blood. This is the matrix of blood, and it is pale straw colored liquid. It is in the form of liquid, and it contains 85 to 90% water and 5 to 10% inorganic and organic substances. The inorganic substances, they are sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium, chloride, sulfate and phosphate. These inorganic substances are found in the plasma. The organic substances present in the plasma are proteins like albumins, which retain water in plasma, globulins that form the antibodies, fibrinogens and prothrombin both take part in coagulation of blood, hormones, enzymes, cholesterol and waste substances. These are the organic materials found in the plasma. If the protein fibrinogen is removed from the plasma, the remaining fluid is called serum. If we take out the protein which is fibrinogen from the plasma, then the remaining fluid will be called as serum. Plasma makes up to 55 to 60% of the blood volume. Now we'll talk about the cells which are found in the blood. The three types of cells found in the plasma, that are erythrocytes, which is also commonly known as red blood cells, RBCs. Second is leukocytes, commonly called as white blood cells, that is WBCs. And third is thrombocytes, they are commonly called as platelets. So here you can see the types of cells which are found in the blood. Red blood cells, erythrocytes, white blood cells, they are called leukocytes, and platelets, they are called thrombocytes. White blood cells are of various types. There are of 5 types that we will see further. Now we'll talk about the blood cells one by one. Red blood cells, which is erythrocyte. Red blood cells, RBCs or erythrocyte, are the most abundant cell in a mammalian body. It is the most abundant cell in our body. The primary characteristic feature of red blood cells is presence of hemoglobin. Our red blood cell contain a red pigment that is called as hemoglobin, which is responsible to carry oxygen and carbon dioxide. And presence of oxygen in the hemoglobin gives the bright red color to the blood in our body. The hemoglobin carries 97% of the oxygen as oxyhemoglobin and 23% of carbon dioxide as carbaminohemoglobin. When the hemoglobin combines with the oxygen, it converts into oxyhemoglobin, and it carries 97% of oxygen in our body. When the hemoglobin is combined with the carbon dioxide, then they are called carbaminohemoglobin. So the red blood cells are responsible to carry the oxygen and carbon dioxide with the help of the hemoglobin, which is the red iron containing pigment. Because of the hemoglobin, our blood looks reddish in color. The mammalian red blood cells are biconcave and circular. You can see these are circular in shape and they are biconcave. They are depressed at the center from both the sides and they are biconcave. Mature erythrocyte red blood cells do not contain nucleus in order to make space for more hemoglobin. In mammal's body, the mature erythrocyte do not have nucleus. This is very important point to note, that in the mammals, the red blood cells do not have nucleus. Why do not have the nucleus? Because to provide more space to contain hemoglobin. Their distinct biconcave shape help in diffusion of substances. The biconcave shape of red blood cell help in the diffusion in the exchange of substances. These cells are formed in the red bone marrow inside the bones and are replaced from time to time. The red blood cells are found in the red bone marrow of the bones, and they are replaced from time to time because they have a certain lifespan. The lifespan of most red blood cells are about 120 days. Now we will talk about the white blood cells. Now we will talk about the white blood cells. White blood cells are called as leukocytes. White blood cells are shortly known as, in a short form, they are known as WBCs. They are nucleated, means they have the nucleus, they are larger in size, and they are colorless because of the lackness of hemoglobin. The white blood cells are colorless because they do not have the hemoglobin. That's why they are known as white blood cells. White blood cells are capable of changing their shape, and some of them can ingest cellular debris, bacteria, and other foreign substances. White blood cells have the speciality to change their shape like amoeba. That's why they are called as amoeboid cells, and they can also ingest and engulf the cellular debris, the waste material of cell, and they can also ingest the bacteria and other foreign substances. These kind of white blood cells are called as macrophages, which can ingest the foreign material. They are called macrophages, and they protect us from the foreign harmful materials. White blood cells can be broadly classified as granulocyte and agranulocyte. So there are basically two types of white blood cells, granulocytes and agranulocytes. Here you can see these are the granulocytes and this is the agranulocyte. Granulocytes are further of three types: neutrophil, eosinophil, and basophil. Agranulocytes are of two types: lymphocyte and monocyte. Then the lymphocyte of three types: B lymphocyte, T lymphocyte, and natural killer cell. So the white blood cells are of various types. Mainly they are of two types: granulocytes and granulocytes. Granulocyte contains cytoplasmic granules and lobulated nuclei. They have the granules in their cell, that's why they are called granulocytes, and they are of three types. First of all, it is neutrophil. It constitutes about 60 to 70% of total leukocyte. Their function is to engulf bacteria and other pathogen and thus protect the body from the infection. Eosinophil constitute 2 to 4% of total leukocyte. The number of eosinophil rises in case of certain allergies. Basophils form 0.5 to 2.0% of total leukocyte. They are involved in inflammatory response to injuries. Agranulocytes, they do not contain the granules, that's why they are called agranulocytes. They have non-lobulated nuclei. Agranulocytes are of two types. What are these? Monocytes. First of all, the first one is monocyte. Monocytes form 2 to 8% of total leukocyte. They engulf bacteria and other cellular debris at the injured site, and hence they protect us from the pathogen. Lymphocytes are the second most abundant leukocytes after neutrophil. Lymphocytes form 20 to 30% of total leukocytes. Lymphocytes are involved in providing immunity against infections. So ultimately, the white blood cells are the part of our immune system, and they protect us from infection by killing the pathogens which enter in our body. Now we'll talk about the third type of cells found in our blood, that is platelet, which is also called as thrombocytes. Platelets or thrombocytes are colorless and they are non-nucleated. They do not have nucleus. They are very small and round shaped cells. You can see these These white cells are the platelets present in the blood. Platelets accumulate at the place of injury and release a chain of chemicals called platelet factors. The platelet factor help in repairing injured tissue and promote blood coagulation. Wherever the injury takes place, the platelets accumulate there. They get collected there and they repair the injured tissue and also promote the blood coagulation. So when our blood vessels get injured and it ruptured, then the platelet stick to the injured site and release the clotting factor, blood clotting mechanism to form fibrin, which acts like a mesh to stop the bleeding. At the place of injury, the fibrin makes the mesh in which the platelets get stick together and make a platelet plug, and that's how it stops the bleeding. So the platelets has the main function to stop bleeding by the blood coagulation or blood clotting. Now we'll talk about the function of blood. It transports substances like nutrients, metabolic wastes, gases within the body. The main function of blood is to transport the various substances. It can be nutrients, it can be waste material, it can be gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. Now, red blood cells are involved in the transport of oxygen and carbon dioxide in the body. So the red blood cells which are present in the blood, it exchange the gases, which is oxygen and carbon dioxide. So red blood cells take up the oxygen from the lungs and it supplies throughout the body parts, and it takes up the carbon dioxide from the cells and it brings the carbon dioxide to the lungs to remove it from the body. White blood cells protect the body from infection by engulfing foreign particles and pathogens and by releasing antitoxin and antibodies. White blood cells are the part of our immunity system which are present in our blood. What do? They protect our body from any infection. So they engulf the foreign particles. Whenever any harmful foreign particles enter in our body, the white blood cell engulf it and kill it. So it protects us from the pathogens and harmful foreign particles. And they also produce antitoxins and antibodies to save our body from the harmful pathogens. Blood platelets help in coagulation of blood at the site of injury. Platelets are responsible to stop the bleeding by the blood coagulation. So it also very important. Now we'll talk about the lymph. Lymph is the another kind of connective tissue. What is the distribution? Where are they found? So lymph flows in the vessel called lymph vessel. As the blood flows in the vessels which are called blood vessels, just like that, the lymph also flows into the vessels. That vessels are called as lymph vessel. You can see here these green tube like structure are the vessels, lymph vessels. Characteristics. It is a straw colored fluid derived from the tissue fluid by fine and irregular lymph capillaries and drained into lymph vessel. Lymph is the straw colored fluid which is derived from the tissue and they goes into the lymph capillaries, then it goes into the lymph vessels. So here you can see these green vessels are the lymph capillaries that take up the tissue fluid, and that tissue fluid is called lymph. Lymph is similar to blood in composition except that it lacks RBCs and proteins. and contains lesser calcium and phosphorus than blood. However, WBCs are found in abundance in the lymph. So if you compare the lymph and the blood, so lymph is similar to the blood, but there are some components which are absent in the lymph, which is RBCs and proteins. So some proteins and RBCs are absent in the lymph, and it has less amount of calcium and phosphorus than the blood. But the white blood cells are found in the lymph. About 94% of lymph is water, and remaining 6% contain protein, carbohydrate, fats, hormones, inorganic salt, gases, and nitrogenous waste. Now we'll talk about the functions of lymph. So the white blood cells which are present in the lymph can reach any part of the body by amoeba-like movement, and they ingest the germs the way amoeba ingest food. Thus, the lymph forms the defense system of the body and protects it from infection. So, the white blood cells which are present in the lymph, they are the amoeboid cells. They can move just like the amoeba and goes wherever it is required, and wherever the pathogens are present. So, they ingest, just like the amoeba ingest the food, the white blood cells engulf the bacteria or any pathogen and kill them, so that it acts like a defense mechanism in our body, and it protects us from the infection. Lymph also transport nutrients between blood and tissue cells and collects their waste product. Because the lymph vessels are ultimately attached with the lymph vessels, so and they are open at one end. Lymph vessels are open at one end, and at the second end they are connected with the veins. So they take up the nutrients and waste material from the tissues, and they bring it into the blood in the veins. So this is the another function of blood. Lymph. So this is all for this video. Thank you.